One that a digital ID is the end of democracy as we know it and an irreversible step into a dystopian future of firstly no cash, just a digital currency controlled by governments, potentially leading to a Chinese-style social credit system where government has the ability to control and restrict every single aspect of your lives, from where you go, how you travel, your healthcare, what you eat, control over your spending habits, a veto over your job prospects, and so on. On your screen is the World Economic Forum's graph on how a digital ID is central to controlling every part of an individual's life. Financial services, food and sustainability, travel and mobility, e-commerce, social media and telecommunications, it's all there. And of course, every aspect of your healthcare. Digital ID schemes potentially give absolute powers of surveillance and control over every aspect of your life to unelected bureaucrats, unscrupulous politicians and greedy governments and corporations. If you don't think future authoritarian governments of whatever persuasion won't use these powers ruthlessly and mercilessly, then you must have been fast asleep during COVID QR codes and vaccine mandates. According to an opinion piece in LifeSite News, the reality of digital identity is not about curbing illegal immigration. It has nothing to do with securing jobs, and it most certainly isn't meant to protect youth online. They say digital ID is the linchpin of the United Nations push for a global surveillance state. Aman Jabi is a former Silicon Valley video and camera design whiz kid. He's now turned whistleblower on the dangers of where big tech, along with big government, want to take us.
Facial recognition will be used to unlock your digital identity, which is going to be a tool of control for the agendas that are coming down the pipeline. The plan is to pretty much lock up humanity in smart cities, which is kind of a superset of a 15-minute city. Water management is about water rationing, noise pollution is about speech surveillance, traffic monitoring is about limiting mobility, and then, of course, energy conservation is all about rationing heat, electricity, and gasoline.
Keir Starmer is currently trying to introduce the UK's digital ID by making it mandatory if you want to work and pretending it will solve Britain's immigration problems. The public aren't buying it.
Because he hath oppressed and hath forsaken the poor, because he hath violently taken away an house which he builded not, surely he shall not feel quietness in his belly. He shall not save of that which he desired. Job chapter 20, verse 19 and 20. Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Ruchakodash. Double honors to our venerable apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone on down who rule well. And peace and blessings to the Lord's elect, the house of David. All right, so Brother Aharon coming back at you with another lesson, lowering and beatifying and uplifting unto the elect. And I have an article here I want to jump into real quick. All right, and it's titled, U.S. Law Enforcement Issues Dire Alert. Anti-Tech Extremism Explodes as Hatred for AI Reaches a Boiling Point. Okay, and this is actually dated today, May 28th, 2026. All right, and of course, in the time of biblical prophecy. Okay, and this is all part of the prophecies that, starting from my elders and apostles of Great Millstone on down, you've been warned about. Okay, the whole world has been warned and introduced to these things, that there's going to come a time where the governments of this world are going to start to push back against the people. Okay, because people are not going to be in compliance with, all right, the ways in which the governments are using AI to rule over the citizens. Okay, so in many places, as is written in the book of 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, about how the people are not going to regard their kings nor princes, right? And there's going to be insurrection, right? There's going to be sedition among men, all right? And they're not going to regard their kings nor princes because life is going to be hard. It says for lack of bread and for great tribulation. So people are going to be bugging the hell out because life has changed. And now they're being forced to change with it. If not, They got no services. Okay. And those uprisings, those people rebelling against the system because it's not going in their favor, the governments are going to push back against that. Okay. Many different places all around the world, you're going to have governments that are going to be pushing back against their citizens who may resist, certain forms of this whole AI-driven governance. Okay. You got AI-driven governance. You have surveillance. Okay. You have automation, right? Even look at automation, it will be for more like the jobs, right? These companies are all shifting from having people on the payroll to now just using robots. Okay. They're going to be using robots to work in the warehouse, all right, to do anything that has to do with the supply chain and so on and so forth, man. Factory jobs, okay, white collar job, blue collar jobs, all of them is going to be taken over by AI. Okay. And people are starting to push back against that. Okay, even surveillance. All right, this whole concept of keeping everyone safe and this whole Minority Report style of police work. Okay, people are going to be pushing back against that. All right, so it's going to be, to a point where, it's going to come to violence. Okay, it's going to become violent because you have different. I think it's Italy right now. There's protests going on the past couple of weeks. Okay, and the mainstream media is not going to talk about it, right? Because the last thing they want is for the world to wake up to see that, oh shit, there's countries that's protesting against the things that we also going through. Oh, wait a minute, we got a chance against this shit. Hold on, let's protest and see, the after effects or / the reaction that comes from protesting against these data centers and so on and so forth. Okay, but Esau knows that there's a heavy push against his agenda, his data centers, his so-called AI driven governance. Okay, they know that people are going to push back against it, so they're trying to get ahead of it by pushing this type of propaganda. Let's get it real quick. It says here, federal authorities are directing increased surveillance toward individuals and groups expressing strong opposition to rapidly advancing artificial intelligence and data centers expansion, classifying such activities under a new category of potential domestic threat. So they're playing their hand right there. And this guy, Larry Fink, all right, he came out, and I think it was a couple of weeks ago, if not a month ago, he said that, one second. He said that, basically they're concerned about regular citizens, regular American citizens, or even just people around the world in general, okay, using $3,000 drones to go and destroy their $1 billion AI data centers, right? And they try to push this, propaganda of, oh, those are domestic teas and extremists, and we have to do something about that. We have to get ahead of the curve, okay? That's all designed because this is all part of the stage they're setting to go against anyone who's going to be in opposition to or in defiance of any form of AI governance or / surveillance or automation, like I said before, right? If you oppose anything AI related, all right, just like Trump and them signed this executive order that will stop states from regulating AI for the next 10 years. It's not just the states. It's also going to be for the citizens. Okay, there's a reason why he's partnering up with all these technocrats and, signing all these different, giving them these government contracts, all right, billions of dollars worth of contracts. There's a reason why Trump is the one who's doing all these things. And there's a reason why he did it, all right, for the most part within his first 100 days in office. Okay, because that's still kind of like the honeymoon stage. So you could do a lot of things that's going to go over people's heads. Okay, they're not really going to, notice it because it's happening so quickly. But you give it a year, maybe 2 years, all right, people are going to start putting pieces together like, wait a minute, this shit's not moving like how this guy promised us. So they're going to start resisting. They're going to start pushing back. They're going to start questioning things. You see? So they had to move quick. That devil had to come in and start putting these things in place quickly. Okay? Because they know that they have but a short time. Revelation 12:12. Okay? So it says here, as public frustration grows over AI-driven job displacement and massive data centers being built near communities, intelligence agencies, including the Department of Homeland Security and FBI, are It's like you. Department of Homeland Security and FBI are circulating internal assessments that highlight, quote, anti-tech violent extremism as an emerging concern. And they just came up with it. All right, they come up with, this is how they create criminals. Okay, they come up with something, and then all of a sudden you become a criminal. All right, even though there is no victim, you're still committing a crime, right? Because it's all bogus, it's all bullshit anyway. So they create criminals because all they have to do is, look, we're gonna come up with a new law, all right, a new fear tactic, okay, to coerce the people in a certain way, right, in a certain direction in which we want them to be in, right? We have to change behaviors, like Larry Fink said about a year or two ago. Okay, they have to start doing things to change behavior. So continuing, it says, this shift comes against a backdrop of recent attacks on tech executives, widespread protests targeting data infrastructure, and broader societal unease about technological change. All right, and I was going into that example about yesterday, this client that I was talking to, and she was basically saying how she doesn't like this whole new age of digital this and, you know, smart this and stream this and all this stuff. Like, these older people are not okay with that, but they have no choice but to learn it and get along with it, because that's just the new way of doing things, right? There's always a phase, right? There's always a time for something, right? There was a time where, you know, being able to travel around the world was just, you just have to have your passport and you're good, right? And then after that, they gradually shift you into a time where you need to have a proof, right? You need to have some form of proof. Like, they gotta scan you, they gotta do this, they gotta do that, all these different things, just so you could travel. Okay, you minimize, you bring that down to another level of buying and selling, right? Because travel is a form of buying and selling, but I'm talking about, like, because you don't travel every day, right? That's not common. Most people don't travel every single day, like as in I'm buying a flight or a plane ticket to go somewhere. It's not happening every day. But what is happening every day is buying and selling, right? You buying gas, or you pay for food, or you buy water, whatever the case may be, you're buying something. Now, using that example of buying and selling and going from time period to the next, right? Different time periods. When you go back into the 80s, right? You didn't have credit cards. You didn't have debit cards. You only had your cash or whatever the case may be, you know, into making your purchases. And it was very simple, right? Very simple transaction. And that was the end of it. And then you fast forward into the mid 2000s, into the 2010s, and so on and so forth. You start to see the shift into digitizing, right? Now you have an option of, you don't have to just have a cash, you don't have to make purchases just with cash, right? You can use debit cards. Visa became a thing, right? So a decade or two goes by, they come in with something new, right? Where now you can use your phone. You could use the smart technology, touchscreen, right? Contactless payment. You see? So every decade or so, a decade and a half or so, they always come up with something new that people have to adjust to. Okay? And then as more and more people get adjusted to the new way of doing things, the old way just disappears. It fades away. It never exists. It never comes back again. It's just gone. And they call it what? They call it technological innovation. They call it technological advancements. Okay? So there's a stark difference between how people lived back in maybe 20, 30 years ago to how they're living now. Okay? In the past 10 years, we've seen a drastic change in how we all live our lives, right? And it's all tailored to the mark of the beast, all right? So remember the 3 steps. You have the mark of the beast technology, you have the mark of the beast mentality, and you have the mark of the beast reality, okay? So it says here, this shift, okay, comes against a backdrop of recent attacks on tech executives, widespread protests targeting data infrastructure, and broader societal unease about technological change. So if these so-called technocrats cared about your safety and how they pitch these gadgets that they're pushing out to the world, okay, then wouldn't you think that they'll stop and say, well, the people don't want it, so let's find something that the people actually want. How come it's going to be more of a no? You guys need this. You want this. We're going to help you get this thing. And as a matter of fact, anyone who resists or pushes against it, we're going to label you a so-called anti-tech extremist. What the fuck? You see, this is how Esau works. We're going to set up a system. We're going to use our media to push propaganda, okay, and push a certain narrative that's not true. It's all false, but we're still going to push it because you tell a lie long enough, all right, consistently enough, people start to believe it as truth, as facts. Okay, that's why the truth, the real, actual truth from the scriptures is a bothersome thing to the elites because it quite literally is a hindrance to them moving forward with their agenda. Okay, when everything must be done in secrecy and fraudulently, once the truth comes out, you start shining the light on the darkness, they become very uncomfortable. Okay, they become very, very uncomfortable. So let's keep going. It says, documents obtained by the outlet spanning more than 1,000 pages from federal and fusion center sources reveal a coordinated effort to monitor activities ranging from online discussions to local demonstrations. Right? So they're watching everything. Like I said years ago, something called TTID, tag, trace, and identify. Okay? They have the technology. They've been had the technology, but now it's more out in the open. Okay? There's a difference. When you're dealing with people, right? It's a difference when people don't know that they're being watched. They behave differently compared to when they know they're being watched. Okay? So for so long, with the NSA and so on and so forth, they were spying on people. They could read your messages. They could watch your social media posts. They could listen to your phone conversations. They could do all that and gather that data and intel on you. Okay? But then they were like, well, we need to take it a step further. So what we're going to do is we will openly tell the people this is what we do. All right? That way, number one, at some point, people are going to accept it because the mindset, the general mindset of people, especially the ignorant ones, is, oh, I'm not doing anything bad. I'm not saying anything wrong. I mean, I don't care if somebody's watching or listening to me because I'm not doing anything wrong. But that's not the point. There's a reason why it's called privacy. There's a reason why you have, you lock your door when you go to your house. You have keys to your house. You don't want people coming to your house. You're not doing anything wrong in your house, but you don't want people in your house because it's private space. Okay? You have curtains for a reason because you don't want people just seeing inside of your house. You're not doing anything wrong per se, but you don't want people seeing in your house. It's called privacy, right? There's a reason why you could get on the phone and tell somebody something between you and them. You don't want everybody else to hear it. I mean, what you're saying might not be wrong. It might not be harmful, but it's just the point is you don't want people hearing or seeing things you don't want them to hear or see. It's called privacy, right? So the whole notion of, well, if I'm not doing anything wrong, I don't have anything to hide. You idiot. That's not the point. Because if that was the case, then shit, everybody would just have their doors wide open. Nobody would care about, security. What do you care about security for? Right? Any one person could come in and see what you're doing. You're not doing anything wrong, right? Whenever you're taking a shower, you have the shower curtain, right? You close the door. You don't just shower out in the open, right? Because of privacy. Now, taking a shower, is that wrong to take a shower? No, right? But you don't want people seeing you while you're taking a shower, right? What if you get intimate with your woman, right? You want people watching you, listening to you? No. Is it wrong to be intimate with your woman? No. But you don't want people watching that. That's the point, right? So the point is privacy. Now, Esau wants to do away with privacy. So this is how they're pitching it, right? Oh, anyone who comes against it and pitches the idea of you need to have privacy and all that, well, maybe you have something to hide. Maybe you're an extremist or you're domestic tea, so you don't want us to know what's going on, right? Maybe you might be the one who's plotting and scheming something bad that could happen to everybody else. So we need to see everything you do with your life. That's bullshit. Okay? That's BS because we don't get to see everything they do in their lives. They keep everything secret. Huh? If privacy didn't matter, why do they have secret societies? Why don't you just come on and just do everything in the open? I mean, they're doing it now, but for so long they kept everything secret. Why is that? See? So continue, says, a New York Intelligence and Counterterrorism Bureau report specifically warns of future unrest, stating, quote, the chaotic atmosphere that may result from emergent AI technology in the next 5 years may fuel large-scale protests that devolve into civil unrest and anti-tech violent extremist activity, especially in large urban areas such as New York City. Interesting. The assessments also reference cases like the Zizians, a small group tied to extreme views on AI risks, noting concerns that similar, quote, paranoid views could spread following related legal proceedings. Okay, so people who are considered Zizians, they're tied to a group that, that's crazy. Extreme views on AI risks. What is so extreme about a view you may have on something that is risky? That's not extreme. That's not extreme at all. That's actually reasonable. That's actually something that should be encouraged, right? Look at the pros and cons of something. Don't just accept it just because the technocrats are telling you that it's good for you. Over the past 5 years, you should have known or learned that when they come out and tell you that something is good for you, you might want to go the opposite way, right? So it says here, fusion centers have flagged monitoring of data center protests, Tesla-related demonstrations, and even public meetings where residents voiced opposition to local construction projects. Experts cited in the reporting express caution. Experts cited in the reporting express caution about the breadth of the new category. Spencer Reynolds, senior counsel at the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, told Wired that such intelligence efforts often blur lines between protected speech and genuine threats. That's right. Okay? Because all they're doing is, oh, you speak against this, you're an extremist. Well, I have the right to speak against or for anything I want. But you can't tell me, oh, it's not freedom of speech. Then it becomes permitted speech, right? You're only allowed to say certain things and so on and so forth as long as it's in compliance with what we want, right? It's only all inclusive. Remember that dumb shit they used to run around with? All inclusive. It's only all inclusive as long as what you're doing and saying goes along with what we're doing. If not, we're gonna cancel you, right? We're gonna call you a hater. We're gonna call you anti-Sem. We're gonna dox you, right? We're gonna threaten your life. You got people that be arrested and thrown in jail. You know what I'm saying? All because they went against the grain. We've seen that time and time and time again, even in history. Okay? When you go into the book of Acts, it tells you about how the apostles were thrown in prison because what? They were speaking against the status quo, just like we're doing today. Okay? So eventually they're going to have to come in with that heat. But hey, we've been waiting for a minute. All right? We have been waiting for a minute because we know what our Lord is going to do once these devils start making their move. Okay? It says these intelligent reports are a part of a long tradition of agencies identifying protests or even simply having strong opinions as precursors of violence, right? So they tie it all in. Oh, you protesting? You must be violent. You must be a violent extremist, right? Anti-tech extremism. So you're against. That's the whole thing. Anti-tech. The fuck. People use tech. People are not anti-tech. They just don't want this AI bullshit that you're trying to force on them. Don't try to spin it and make it seem like people are just against tech, because we're all surrounded by tech, right? People still watch TV, that's tech. People use phones, that's tech. People drive cars, that's tech. What are you talking about? So people are not anti-tech, just like how they use the label conspiracy theory or conspiracy theorists, right? Or anti-Semitic. These are labels that they push on people. It's all diversion tactics, man. Okay? And it only works when people actually believe it. When people don't recognize that shit, it doesn't work at all. It doesn't really matter. It's almost like it doesn't exist. It only exists when people start to actually acknowledge it. You see? But if people were to go about their day and man, F the government, fuck what they're saying about this whole anti-tech extremism. If people never pay attention to that, it wouldn't stick. They'll have to find something else, another form of propaganda, right? To push this narrative of people are dangerous. Anyone who speaks against what we're trying to do is dangerous. We need to do something about them. That's it. Okay? And slowly but surely, you're going to start seeing a lot more countries, okay, with people protesting. Okay, and these governments, they got all kinds of different their what they call approval ratings is in the tank right now, man, all around the world. Okay, and that's all part of biblical end time prophecies. Okay, let's get this real quick, and then we're gonna close it out. It's gonna be a short, straight to the point, like I said before. Okay, this is all, hey, beautiful times, beautiful times. We keep on bringing on the same precepts because they're speaking now. Okay, Habakkuk the 2nd chapter tells you, though it tarry, wait for it surely come, it will not tarry. So we're living in the times of these prophecies being fulfilled, man. Okay, there's a book of 2nd Ezra chapter 9 and verse 1. It says, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Okay, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. Okay, so count yourself blessed, okay, and privileged that the Heavenly Father Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai gave you, or gave us this understanding, the keys to the puzzle, so that we don't fret. Okay, we're not frazzled when we see these things happening. We don't panic. Okay, we don't lose our faith. We don't lose our wits. All right, wisdom and knowledge is being the stability of our times. All right, the wisdom and knowledge of the scriptures, the understanding of the truth, the full 100% truth. Okay, and the faith we have in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai because of the knowledge that we have of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Okay, beautiful thing, man, beautiful thing. So yeah, don't get tripped over by Esau and his propaganda BS. All right, this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's going to get much worse, and it's going to be much more violent. All right, from here on out, all the way into however long the Lord has us in here, 2027 or whatever the case may be, you're going to see a whole lot more governments coming against their people and people coming against their governments. You're going to see that clash. Okay, and soon here in America, you're going to start seeing governments pushing, or the government pushing for what they call fully autonomous robots to police the streets and to quell so-called dissidents. Okay? Think of Palantir. Think of Oracle. Just to name a few. These companies are going to be working side by side with the government to quell so-called dissidents. Political, religious, whatever the case may be. There will be uprisings, there's uproars, and they'll do whatever it takes to shut all that shit down. Okay? So get ready. It's not looking good for the world. All right? It's not looking good for the world. It's not going to end well for America, Babylon the Great. Okay? Anyway, I'm ending off there low, and you are edified and informed. In closing, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rachakwadash, the Wadi Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai. Until next time, Shalom.
Because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on. And it's unimpeachable. The cars have cameras on them. I think we have a squad car here someplace. But those kind of applications using AI, if we can use AI, and we're using AI to monitor the video. So if that altercation that occurred in Memphis, the chief of police would be immediately notified. It's not people that are looking at those cameras. It's AI that's looking at the camera. No. You can't do this. It would be like a shooting. That's going to be immediately, that's going to be an event that's immediately, an alarm is going to go off. It's going to be, and we're going to have supervision. In other words, every police officer is going to be supervised at all times.